Hello again. We are ready to start. My name is Juan Patiño. I'm a member of Forza's marketing team. Today we are going to have a very interesting theme, a topic very interesting, the architectural criteria for industrialized systems. We have prepared this webinar so you can learn about things to consider regarding height, wall thicknesses, slopes, special details, and other features when design optimize a construction project with industrialized systems. Please, if you have any question or any comment, write them all in the webinars box down the chat. Please write them all at the end of the webinar. We will try to answer them all, okay? So don't forget it, if you have any question at the end, you can write all the comments you want. For all these recommendations with us, here we have Jose Angulo. Jose is Forza's engineering specialist with Bachelor of Architecture from Universidad del Valle, Colombia, specialized in design and industrialized buildings, focused on living units. He has more than 11 years experience in various projects and construction, home units, commercial buildings, and urban designs. With no more, go ahead, Jose, how are you?
Hi, Juan. I'm pretty well. What about you?
I'm good, thank you. Go ahead. People are exciting.
Okay, thanks a lot. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, sharing our knowledge and our experience. And not being more, I'm gonna start to share my screen and show you the main tips that we need to keep in mind for this architectural design in order to cover industrialized ways of building. Okay, so let's start sharing this screen. Okay, to begin with, I'm going to start with this design guide. You will see this criteria for general industrialized buildings and general industrialized constructions. Okay, so it's important to keep in mind this main concept, industrialized construction, which means that we are going to produce as many buildings, as many living units as we can in order to cover our main purpose. Eventually, we will build buildings for general people. Eventually, we will build buildings for institutional scopes and all those matters that we can focus our work on. So you will see now these criteria, these tips, these key factors that we can keep in mind to build in a better way. Okay, so first, if we focus on design, if we are focused on design, we will check these following tips. These are these fundamental aspects that you can keep in mind before you try to buy this industrialized system, and not just our system, it could be any other system around the world. And all these key factors will help you to build in a proper way, maybe even faster. Maybe you can do it a little bit better, and you can improve your numbers. Okay, so first we will see the general definitions, and we will explain some concepts such as clear height, gable ends, special details, all those kind of things. Following that, we will see this rounding measurements, which means that we are going to try to work with close numbers. And after that, we will check the confined spaces. I mean, this is the small spaces, the small areas that we need to pour in our apartment or architectural design. Following the next point would be the unevenness, which means the difference between levels and how to cover it with Forza and with any other system that is focused on industrialized construction. Finally, the last 3 points will be the changes in wall thickness, of course, the clearance changes, which means the clear height changes, and the difference between heights in the apartments or in the living units or the general building slab sections and difference between levels. And finally, we will check the special architectural details. Okay. I want you to remember that all those are important things. And if you go through them, you will finally get something pretty important, which means you will reach an industrialized building with pretty good finishes, with pretty good execution time, and all those things that will make your business and your general building a better experience. Okay, let's keep going to the follow one. Here you will see the general definitions. And I'm gonna talk about this clear height, which means we are gonna check what is the distance between the slab that I have on my level. It could be the slab, it could be the foundation slab, it could be the first level, the ground floor slab. But we need this floor top level without finishing, and we need to know the height that we keep between all those slabs, the slab for the floor and the slab from the following level, or maybe the slab for the roof as itself. Okay, so we will have this concept, clear height, very important for us, because if we have this clear, we're gonna be able to produce a formwork and a panel really based on these necessities that you have on your building. First, we will divide it into one formwork, which is the one that I'm highlighting right now. This is the panel formwork. And following that, you will see this slab, wall slab union. The slab is in the upper part, and the wall slab union is the one that goes in the corner and make the connections between the two of them. So you will finally reach your clear height, but you will need to have the other faces of the wall, and these that we call the ties, which are the connections between the panels itself. Why we talk about this clear height? Because if you make it a close number, as I talked before, as for example 2.4 meters, you can make it 2.5, you can make it 2.7, you can make it 2.9 meters, and those numbers are pretty easy for an industrialized system to be covered. But if you have something special like for example 2.79.6 meters, you will find out something pretty more difficult to find out. However, we can cover it, but you are not gonna be able to use these formworks in future projects. And I'm gonna describe that because here with industrialized systems as Forza and formworks, you will know that you can use this formwork for future projects. Maybe if you put, for example, 200 living units in the first project, then you will find out that you can use that formwork in other projects for other 400 powerings. And finally, you can reach until 1,000 powerings and more, which means almost like 1,000 apartments, living units, or more, if you take care of the formwork and if you use, of course, similar clear heights. That's why it is so important, because if you keep some criteria in mind, you can fully cover your projects with this formwork, and you can change between projects easily with not too many additional pieces. Okay, let's go to the following. Yeah, that's one. Here we will see that doors and window heights, those important things, the doors and windows head height, are gonna play a good role in all these things. Because if you keep these heights, as I shown right here, this is the head height of the window, this is the head height of the door. If you keep this as a standard number. And if you keep it all through your projects, you can find out that you can use your framework a little bit more frequently. So that would be pretty useful. And finally, this deeper ring, which means at the end of the day, the ring height itself is going to be pretty useful if you try to keep it at the same height, or if you change it between them into similar distances and close numbers. For example, as we have here 30, we have here 40, we have these measures as in centimeters. I'm gonna make that clear. We have here 30 centimeters, we have here 40 centimeters, and all those are pretty important. And the changes are like 10 centimeters between them. Maybe you have your projects in feet, but we can convert or transform all those units to centimeters, and we can try to transform it to centimeters, to millimeters, though, and make your project a little bit more standard. Why we can handle this kind of units? Because we are in our main factory is in Colombia, and here the main measures are taken in millimeters. Okay, so that's pretty important. However, we can work almost as at any measure system, but we're gonna keep it or make a final conversion to millimeters. So that's quite important. Okay, let's talk about this one, which is these are the confined areas. I'm gonna talk about like the small areas, and this and the upper part are the rounded measurements. As I talked before, these rounded measurements are gonna be like an important part, not exactly for us, it's more like for you. Why? Because if you make all these measures like 5 centimeters, 10 centimeters, and you can go through them 5 by 5, crossing them, then you can find out that you can use this framework in future projects without many difficulties. So that's going to be pretty useful more for you than for us. And that's the main idea of the industrialized system. Okay. The confined areas or spaces are the spaces that are 60 centimeters or smaller. And these areas are quite difficult to take this formwork out. Okay. When you want to remove all this formwork, we're going to find out that it's not going to be easy. And we are going to recommend you to use all those are like ducts or the area for or the piping itself. Normally they use it for it. We're going to recommend you to make it at least 60 centimeters. Okay. Why? Because in 60 centimeters, you can remove all this formwork easily. But if you make it other ways, we're going to find out that all this formwork can be removed, but they're going to suffer a little bit in the process. And you are not going to be able to use them more than a certain amount of uses. Okay, so that's pretty important. These small areas, you have to keep them in mind as 60 centimeters, the minimum. Okay, let's go to the following one. Here we are talking about the sloping. This sloping is more like talking about how to pour your living units, or it cannot be just living units. It can be buildings, for example, I have buildings, public buildings. The formwork is designed to build all those matters. The thing is that we try to make some pieces or puzzles small in small areas, or not small areas, but in repetitive areas, so we can use them all through the project. For example, at the left part, you're going to find out in the picture 7, you're going to find out that there are 2 ways of pouring these units. The first way will be ascending, the second way will be descending. What it means? It means that we are gonna find out many ways to pour. But here in the industrialized system, we are telling that it's gonna be a better way to make it descending. Why? Because the ascending way is gonna make you like create more pieces each time you wanna pour the following unit. However, if you go to the descending way, you will find out that there are pieces that you already use that you will use in the follow one, and you are not gonna find any more new pieces. So going descending is cheaper, it's a little bit faster, it's a little bit easier than going ascending. So please keep that in mind. It's gonna be a little bit useful for you. We have an additional tip here, which means that between any unit or any living unit or between any pouring, we are gonna have like a joint. This construction joint is normally made between buildings, and those buildings need to be separated. And this system can cover all these variations with this kind of solutions. For example, this picture 8, I'm gonna show you the image in the left part, but in a section way. This way is going to be very important for us because if you check the section, you will find out that we already have a unit port, and following that, we will find out the formwork and the following unit, which is going to be poured with our formwork itself, or with any industrialized system. But these ties, we name it like double wall ties, and they make you life a little bit easier. Of course, we're gonna have to put something between the concrete in order to keep them in place. Finally, we will recommend you here that if you're gonna move between levels, I mean, if you're gonna go all along your project itself, you're gonna find out that the difference between levels need to be non-15 or the multiple of 15. For example, if we have 15 between levels, 15 centimeters, I'm talking about centimeters, we're gonna find out that those 15 centimeters are gonna make a little bit trouble to be built because this tie cannot be used. She is gonna be here at this level, and we are not gonna be able to keep it in place and use this element, which is pretty important for us. So I'm gonna recommend you to make your unevenness or your difference between levels a multiple of 5, such as 5, 10, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Of course, 50 is the following number because 15 centimeters plus 30 plus 30 plus 30 plus 30 plus 30, they are gonna make you, they're gonna create this trouble with the ties. So try to avoid it and try to keep the numbers that I already give you as the right one. I'm gonna repeat them: 5, 10, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, etc., etc., etc. The red label is going to show you like the level that you can make. Let's go to the following one. Here we have a very important topic to treat with. Why? Because normally when we have buildings, like high buildings, we have to cover something that is named in design the wall sections, and we had to cover these wall sections through all the levels, and all those levels normally have a change between the section of the walls. This industrialized system is able to cover all those changes, but we are going to recommend you certain things about the wall section changes itself. For example, you're gonna see on the left side, on the down left side, the image number 10, you're gonna see the walls in yellow. These walls are 15 centimeters section, and the following one in the middle has 20 centimeters wall section. This thickness against this thickness are shown in the image 12, and you will check that out easily, and you will know where are the changes, and you will find out that for our system, for your building itself, for the construction well-doing itself, the section need to be changed from the outside to the interior. It means that the external facade is going to be preserved, and all the wall sections are going to be changed from the external to the internal. The difference between walls is important to keep them in the internal of the building, so you can preserve the facade aligning itself. Okay, that's pretty important for us. However, we can cover any changes, but they can represent a little bit more effort from you and for us in order to be executed. So please keep that in mind. Following are the changes in the clear height. Do you remember that I already talked about the clear height? These changes are gonna be pretty useful if you keep them in certain parameters. For example, we talk about the clear height in the left column of the central chart, the left column, the central column, and the right column. The left column talks about the clear height. The middle one refers to the wall panel itself, and the right one talks about the corner or the union between slab and walls. This element that makes that function. So, for example, if you have 2.2 meters clear height, you will find out that we will use 2.1 meters wall panel, and we will use wall slab union of 10 centimeters. Quite simple. How it works, or how we decided, or in general, the formwork industry decides how to do that. They do it this way because normally we have 30 centimeters between the standard panels. So these 30 centimeters are going to be checked all along the column. Check this one, 2.1, 2.1, 2.1. Then you go to 2.4, 2.4, 2.4 meters, and then you go 2.7, 2.7, 2.7. It means that the standard heights are preserved in this thing, in this central column, and you will see the main changes are based on 30 centimeters. After that, if I go, for example, to 2.65 centimeters, 2.65 meters, in this case, 265 centimeters, I'm gonna use this 240 centimeters panel instead of the 210 centimeters, because this one is a standard and covers a little bit more area than the one before. And I have to add, in this case, 25 centimeters of complement, or sometimes we call it the corner itself, the upper corner, which means the wall slab union. Okay, so it's going to be 25 plus 240, and that means 265 centimeters. So these clear heights are pretty important, because if you have, for example, you can see it at the right hand, if you had 250 centimeters of clear height, and then you go to the next project and it's a big one, you can use the 240 centimeters panel, which could be this, and you can add a 40 centimeters complement or a slab wall union, instead of the 10 centimeters that you have in the project before, and save all these formwork panels, which are the wall panels, and eventually all the slab panels. Of course, if the changes in your design are massive, we are not going to be able to cover a high percentage, but if the changes in your project are not that big, or if you keep in mind the puzzles, we are going to be able to cover it a little bit faster, better, and in a more efficient way. In a more efficient way, okay? This is the high formwork of facade. If you can see, we have the difference draft as a sketch at the right hand. You can see the wall formwork. I told you before, this one could be 210 centimeters, 240 centimeters, or 270 centimeters, and the complement or the cap. But when you talk about the high formwork, it's like one panel completed that makes the portion of the bulk of the two panels that are in the left part. So you will see just less pieces. You will see something like more clear. You will see that the finishes will have no unions, but no joints, sorry. But the only situation is that when you try to use these panels in the interior part, like here, when you have a slab, you are not going to find out a way to use them. As you could see before, if I have this gray panel and I move it to the interior, I could use them. So that's the difference. This one is a little bit more expensive, but faster. And this one is a little bit less expensive, but more adaptive to any to any contouring zone. So you can choose all the possibilities here in our design. Finally, I wanted to tell you that some special countries as the United States prefer this kind of setting up because they use many cranes and less handcraft or less workers itself. So for them, it's pretty useful if I have all these attached as one facade instead of having these two parts that need to be removed by hand. And that's the difference. So I hope you I hope you understood what's the concept of the high formwork on facade. Special details. Here, about these special details, we are going to check that Forza system, and here I have to talk especially about Forza. Forza system has special advantages. I know other systems try to cover as many concrete as possible, but we are able to keep in mind, for example, things like these borders are at the slab, these borders at the windows, the columns, the upper part of the column, the detailing itself. We can even pour these slope slabs, which we call normally like gables. Okay, all these gables can be covered for Forza itself. Even if you have a gable end, a planar gable end, we can cover it. And that's pretty important and pretty useful as the system, as you can see in the left picture, we can build it and we can assemble that system easily. And you can save time and you can use, for example, certain things that normally you're not gonna use to. You don't like to use them frequently, so you can use them here, right now, in the forward itself, and you will see the advantages, the finishing, and the special details. There are many other special details, such as For example, as I told you, a planar gable end. We can have like special seals. We can have a special door shapes and all those things that covers these these special events in architecture. Of course, certain details are pretty special, and we're going to try to make it more standard. And in this case, we are going to recommend you to try to use these close measures, tries to check out if your system is similar. Sorry, if you set it up or your configuration is similar between levels, in these cases, even in between levels, or you can do it similar between projects, and then you can use a little bit more formwork, okay? So try to keep the clear height, try to keep, for example, the slopes. If you keep the slope, you can use them between houses, and you can save time and money. And that I get that's all the recommendations for this design in itself. So check out that we can cover almost anything. But if you keep in mind the tips that we talked before, within these details, for example, as close measures, such as 5 centimeters or +5, or maybe a multiple of 5, like 10, 15, you can do it in this cornice. You can do it on the columns, and you can keep that. This is gonna save a little bit more time, and it's gonna save a little bit more of in pricing itself. For example, this one is the formwork for a special border detail. Okay, this one is focused or located in the seal and helps to make these special window borders more beautiful, faster. Of course, the pouring had to be normally in a good speed, but here you have to check frequently with your vibrator in order to keep it all the concrete in place. You know about the fluency, density, and all these factors that can help you to pour the concrete properly. The following is not that simple to see. It's like here, this one is like the border in order to keep the water outside. So when you add the window, you're gonna be able to avoid this humidity and water problems. So this detail is very important in order to uh, know how the system works, know what we can cover and what we can build or design. Then we will see something like mention like relations in the wall. I'm gonna name it like groups. All these groups are pretty important. I'm gonna try to make it so. Check this out. These are the lines like this. These are the groups, and these ones can be derived from the formwork itself. This is a result of the industrialized system, at least the one that we handle. And you can see that the slab is like fully draft, and it saves some time. Try to make the levels a little bit perfect, so you can avoid these difference between levels, or not the difference, but you can hide it a little bit with these groups. Okay, you can keep it in the you can keep them in the slab. You can make them for the cell, and you can make it for any other factors or any other design situations that you will recognize. Listo. Here, this is the double dilation. So this is the single dilation. And this single dilation is just one groove all along between levels. And it has to align or at least hide the unalignment between levels. So that's why it's pretty important and pretty useful for us as builders. As I told you before, We can make groups, and in this case, we name it like personalized relations. And this is important for us because you can actually leave all these concrete surfaces, exposed. And they can be useful. They can be very useful for you. They can be very useful for any builder. And I guess that's a pretty good finishing. So you can use this contour as an advantage itself. As you can see, we have been going like with a relation between levels and with a relation all along the wall. We do not recommend exactly like all these relations over the wall, but we wanna show here at the all the groups for the slab itself. Here, this is a special panel formwork. This is mostly Forza, but it can show us that we can cover many special details, and I already talked before. And this is a building located in Mexico. Is this one. It's a very beautiful building built with our system, made on high speed and based on concrete surfaces exposed, which is pretty useful and pretty beautiful. As an architect, I can tell you that all these important uh, material finishes are pretty useful if you let them exposed to the customer itself, of course, with the right and the proper treatment. We can even make curved slab borders itself. I mean, this perimeter, you can cover that with all formwork, with all, because all the formworks normally they are not really able to do this. It's not like an angled systems. No, it's more like a curved slabs. Yeah, these curved slabs borders are important for us, and we can cover it in your project for you. Of course, we're gonna give you some recommendations. For example, try to make this if a little bit shorter, try to make this fluctuation between the forms a little bit slower, I mean a little bit softer, I guess the right word for it. This is something we are pretty specialized though, which are the stairs. What are the stairs? The stairs are the ones that we pour with our formwork, and they connect the levels between themselves. Our formwork is able to do these steps. Our formwork is able to do all of them, and we have to talk about the second stage pouring system. Is like an independent pouring system from the walls and from the slab, or we can make it like a monolithic stair. This monolithic stair is fully covered all along. But this one is just covered in the downside. What is the recommendation here? The recommendation here is try to make it a little bit more simple than ever. Try to make try to avoid these stores in the corners, and try to make all the stores a little bit simpler, like this one. This can be easier, this can be faster. And actually for the finishing, you can save even a little bit of money in the finishing itself, the tiles, and all the material you're gonna use. But if you use this form, this is gonna be harder. However, as an industrialized system, we cover many details. And the stairs, they are not the exception. You can see at the right part, the monolithic, we means that it can be able to be poured with the walls. And you can see the second stage stairs that they are gonna be poured after we already have the concrete, or we already have cast the apartment itself. So those are pretty good options. I guess this is pretty important and pretty useful for you, and pretty important and pretty specialized for us. And we do it. We do it. We are really happy to be able to say that. Now, finally, you can find more competitive homework. You can find more details. You can find many things. Sorry, I was saying like that. You can find many information in our work space, and you can find many information in our web page. You can find many information if you talk or you type to our commercial part, because our system is pretty useful. But more important than that, your design and having this criteria in mind is going to help you a lot, even with any other industrialized systems. This is going to help you a lot, and those tips are going to be pretty useful, and you are going to save money, you're going to save time, and that's the main thing about a building itself. That's what I think, and that's what we have lived, and that we have experienced in our projects. So that's one of the main parts. That's one of the main things that I want to share with you. Now, I guess that we're gonna go with Juan about some question and answers. We're gonna check them.
Thank you very much, Jose.
Okay.
Really interesting information. We hope everybody found really interesting this information that Jose provided us. Let's check. We have some questions here. The first one, Ron Cross asks, is your presentation available to print? We already answered them. Yes, Ron,
Okay,
the answer is yes. You can download it, all the material. There's the link that already in the chat. So you can download it with any problem or print it if you want. We have also another question, Jose, from an anonymous assistant. What would be the ideal formwork panel height to cover a 280 centimeter clear height?
Okay, that's good, because we already talked about clear heights, and in that case, it would be a 270 centimeters formwork panel plus wall slab union with 10 centimeters. Okay, so that will be the ideal configuration or setup for that clear. Okay,
perfect,
so let's go.
We have another question here, also an anonymous assistant. How many square meters can I pour with my Forza system?
I guess we already pour something like talking about architectural floor plan covering, like 500, 400 square meters. Yeah, but of course we can cover a little bit more, and having in mind all the logistic works, okay, and all our recommendations. That's my answer in this case.
Perfect. For this time, we have no more questions. I think it's already clear, all the theme. Perhaps if you want more information, more detail, as Jose already told us, you can assist with our specialist. We already sent the link, so you can contact. I think we are done. Thank you all for participating in this webinar. We hope you find useful all the information we have received. And I hope, in name of Forza, we hope you have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye. Bye, Jose. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Juan. I see you later. I hope it will be useful for you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.